Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs,
What's
the youth
up?
ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry, whether it be youth group or youth camp, whatever God has you serving in.
That's right.
That's what we're talking about. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Paul Hamus. I'm joined by my fellow host and good friend,
Kyle Gray. Josh, it is good to be back. I know
you
last
missed last
episode, I know I took a little time off for my birthday.
Yeah, well, I told him you weren't feeling super great.
And
either.
I wasn't feeling super great.
Yeah, so you took some time
I actually
off to
didn't
rest.
feel super great on my birthday.
Yeah,
which
that's
is never
unfortunate.
fun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
no good. You don't want that.
Hey, we are in camp, and so just as a reminder, if you hear noises in the background or
You're gonna
different
hear
thing,
camp happen.
you're gonna camp here. You're gonna camp here happen. My radio is sitting right here, and so there's a chance it's gonna go off. You never know.
Always a chance.
Hey, so our guest today
Yeah.
is the most returned
Is he?
guest on the podcast.
I think Jason still hasn't beat.
Seriously?
This is the 4th episode you've been on.
Yes.
Jason's been on 4, so he's tied.
He is officially
Congratulations.
tied.
We're doing one tomorrow. On your way to the airport.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this again, as you know, if you've been a longtime stacker, this is Mike Bream. Mike is my good friend from Keller, Texas. Mike is a student pastor at Hillside Community Church. Mike, you've been at your church for
13 years.
Wow.
13 years.
13 years in the same position, same ministry.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It's a long time.
That is
Especially
a
for,
long time.
What is your official title at the church?
Student pastor.
Student pastor. Okay.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like sometimes we create these like bigger than necessary, like you're the chief cardboard exporter, and like, okay, I collect the trash. That's what I do.
well,
Listen,
what I really want to get added to my title is
DDS.
I need, like, if I do enough ministry in our international missions, maybe I could be like the global student.
oh, wow.
Because when you see that on someone's
global-
website,
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
So
Listen,
my title is
that is a
actually
big deal.
international media coordinator. So
You have
I
it.
get.
Well,
I don't have
I
world
felt
though.
that. I actually felt
I need to be
that.
the world
But,
media.
but hold on, because you impact youth.
I respected you more, and I didn't even know that.
You
I just
impact
felt
youth
it.
in San Antonio,
Yes,
right? You impact youth here.
in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
You impact youth on mission
listen.
trips you've gone on.
Yep.
So,
International.
Hey, Mike, we are here to upgrade your status. You are now global status. You are a global student pastor.
global student
Global
pastor.
student pastor.
Do we have some music for that?
I don't
Like,
know.
come
I'm
on, we
gonna
gotta
check it.
celebrate.
I know, I
Come
think I
on.
have some fanfare.
All right, we need that updated
Josh will
on
add that in post-op.
yourhillside.com. Look in a week. Global student pastor.
Wow, good work.
Man, that's awesome. Hey, so Mike is our speaker of the week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mike is talking through the I am statements. You want to just give us kind of like a very, very quick overview as to what you've been talking about this week? And
Yeah. I mean, we kind of bookended on what is called traditionally Holy Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Of Jesus sitting down his last meal with his disciples. And, we started with the I am the way, truth, and life, tied that in with the stranded message of if you feel stranded, if you feel lost, then Jesus is making this massive claim that he can be the way to God, right?
Yeah.
He can be the truth that you need to live by and operate and have kind of, I guess you could say, like infect your soul with to displace lies. And he also claims at different moments, not just in this text, but he also claims at different moments to bring rich, abundant life. Not how we normally define life,
Right.
In the West, but something much deeper, something much more satisfying. And so we've just kind of walked through bread of life, light of the world, yesterday, Good Shepherd, and then, this morning, the one that we just came out with was, again, bookended in that Holy Thursday, which was the true vine. So as we were leaving camp, it's like, what would it look like to abide with Jesus, right? What would it look like to abide in him, dwell with him, have him dwell with you?
Yeah.
So that we don't just leave camp and just have that great camp experience and then go home and there's just no growth taking place in our lives after that. So I mean, we've laughed together, we've cried together. I think it's been a great week.
It's been an awesome week.
Yeah.
Which has been your favorite I am statement to talk about?
I think, well, the two, I'll go with two for two different reasons, if you don't mind. Okay. I'm like the guy, okay, that you ask, like, what's your favorite team? And if it's football, they share like one NFC team and one AFC team. Like if either one of them can win the Super Bowl, like I'm the fan, you know?
Yeah.
Or National American League Baseball, like all
Classic
of that.
global student
I know
pastor.
that always, yeah. Well, I'm allowed to now because I'm global.
You are
do
global
whatever
status.
I want. I can literally do whatever I want.
You have the diamond card.
All right.
And so
I can literally do whatever I want now, as of 3 minutes ago.
Yep.
Because I'm global.
Congratulations.
I'm global. I would say the two that resound the most with me, or that I attach to, or can kind of like relate to the most. The two would be the bread of life.
Okay.
Right. And the two words that we used a lot were, what are you craving and consuming? Right. Yeah. And that's just such a, like, you want to ask a kid a question, that's the question to ask almost any day of the week. Right. What are you craving and consuming? Because that's how we were made, to crave and consume.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just have these extreme factors right now in our culture and our society that are maybe just different than those that came decades, hundreds of years before us, right? Centuries before us, whatever. Like, but we all share, throughout human history, we share this thing in common that we crave and consume.
Right.
And you just keep craving and consuming the next thing until you find the true manna from heaven, what Jesus says, the bread of life, right? So that one is very personal to me.
Sure.
And then the one that I did yesterday, which is the good shepherd, right? And as Jesus contrasts himself to the bad shepherds, right? The religious leaders of Israel at the time. And then kind of says, here's the things that the good shepherd will do. He will lay down his life. He knows his sheep and his sheep know him. And then this was before I was the global pastor.
Right.
Okay. So I did typical things like go from that to Psalm 23.
Right.
Okay. Now that I'm global, I have to find
a better,
much better transitions from, you can't just take all the obvious verse connections. Okay. So next year, give me till next year.
Yeah.
But we took that over to Psalm 23, and what is very personal Psalm to me, because that's been one that has kind of gotten me through a dark valley. Right. And so I think, pain has this ability that I have seen, even though none of us want it in our lives. It has this ability to connect with students that experience pain and are experiencing pain. Right.
Yeah.
And so early in my ministry, I had just lived a very easy life. And so when I talked about pain and suffering and what it meant to truly follow Jesus through the midst of that, it was very theoretical. Yeah. And I think my students knew it was, right? And as I have just kind of had a season of suffering for about 7-8 years of my life, now when I speak of the dark valley, what God has constantly been teaching me is that although I would just like the shepherd to take me around it or above it or like reverse, go in reverse, what he really offers is much better. And that is to go through it with me, right? The presence. Yeah. So that was, you were there. That was an emotional day between myself and the students. I know that to see a lot of their hands go up and just say, I'm in the middle of something now that is really hard. Yeah. And then to be able to bring counselors and pastors and volunteers around them to just put hands on them and pray for them in the midst of the valley, that God just keeps teaching them and growing them and they sense his presence daily. That would probably be if one was the AFC and the other was the NFC, that would be the other one for a much more kind of emotional connection that was made. Not like a raw emotion, not like a fake emotion, but a very real, genuine connection between
it was neat.
The sufferers in the room.
It was neat. And it's been exciting to kind of watch students respond and leaders respond. And, this was actually an interesting situation because we actually had a different speaker booked. And through God's divine sovereignty and plan, that guy wasn't able to do that. And so about 7 months ago.
No, Easter.
I was going to say, it wasn't even that long ago.
4 months ago, I said, hey.
Dude, it's like 2 months ago, bro.
Yeah.
but globally speaking, globally.
Yeah, and go.
You're
yeah,
not global.
You know how like
just say whatever you
know how like the hemispheres switch like seasons and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same idea.
Yeah. And so it was awesome to have Mike step in and for people to be like, this is exactly what I needed.
Well, he stepped in what was it 7 weeks ago? You just taught
Easter.
this past.
I mean, he called.
No, you taught 7 weeks ago, right? In this. So I was trying to make a bit about how Kyle has such a bad time with like timing, and you just like went along with it. So never mind, guys. Never mind.
That's all right. That was a good prank. Speaking of it, you know, Mike's been at his church for 13 years. Some people call that the long con. Okay, and so it's really just today.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not know how you're gonna segue out. I thought we were just gonna end up changing the subject.
No. Listen, let's talk about pranks.
Yeah, let's go there.
Let's talk about pranks.
Lighten it up a bit.
Yeah, why not? And so here's the deal. We all three of us in this room, if you're watching, by the way, you can watch. Josh, where can they watch it?
You can check it out on our fellowship YouTube channel. So Word of Life Fellowship on our YouTube channel. You can see what God is doing around the world, but then also follow along with Stack.
Can you say Fellowship YouTube channel one more time?
Fellowship YouTube channel.
Okay, appreciate that.
Feels very close to just falling right there.
Yeah.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, YouTube channel.
It's the Pennsylvania accent. Everything kind of slurs
and
together.
we're all three Pennsylvania boys. Again, I forget about that.
Yeah. Wait, what part of Pennsylvania are you from?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Okay. I grew up in Williamsport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Central.
East.
East.
Although
I'm
I am
central.
constantly told, that like Harrisburg area is not central Pennsylvania. I'm like, it is.
Southern.
Look at a map. It's central Pennsylvania. But it's central south.
Central south, yeah. I'm northeast central.
Yeah. South central. You know.
Go. It's a little point. Everyone, do you guys all point at your hand like that and do a little Pennsylvania
I just
sign?
say western.
Yeah. But you know what's funny is the people that are from Michigan, all you Michiganders out there.
The little hand
Yeah,
thing.
but that's not Michigan.
Yeah.
There's another portion of Michigan that's the UP. I can actually do my whole state like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And the way.
If you have like a hitchhiker thumb, you can actually do the little notch.
Yeah,
too.
That's why I do this.
Well, just so you guys,
notch.
if you're listening, we're putting our hands up. I'm like pointing it like they can still see. We're putting our hands up and turning them sideways because that's what Pennsylvania.
You know what? Half of the people listening just did that. You ever have somebody talk about that and you're like,
then you check it.
And the other half were like, this is what we're talking about on podcasts. Click. Done.
All right. Skip 10 seconds. Okay. So we're talking about pranks.
Yeah.
All three of us feel differently about pranks.
I think Bream and I are on the same page. I think it's just
closer.
You, Kyle.
Hey, we're closer.
That's okay. You guys are both wrong.
That was a prank.
Although you have the global guy on your part, so you have a global perspective.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I have pulled pranks globally.
I know you have.
Really?
Yeah. I have pulled pranks in other parts of the world outside the United States.
How did they take that?
You ever been in an international prison?
So there was a kid. There was a kid in Bermuda. He and I used to prank each other and hide each other's stuff. And he got into our car one time and toilet papered the inside of our car.
Oh, wow.
Like we were inside of our apartment and he toilet papered the inside. And I want to say he even did something to the outside, but I can't remember what he did. And so I was like, okay, if you want to play, we'll play. And I got into his room in the afternoon. I figured out a way to get into his house and I toilet papered his whole room and rearranged his whole room.
Everything.
Unbeknownst to me, at the time of my rearrange, because here's the interesting thing. This kid was homeschooled and nobody was home at all. And I was like, how in the world did I pick the perfect hour and a half to 2 hours? Cause I had to look out and I'm I need you to let me know. Nobody ever came back. We leave. About 15, 20 minutes later, the mom pulls in. She was going to the airport to pick up her mother-in-law who was staying in the boys' room. And so the mom, later on, I found out about that. And I went up to her and I said, I'm so sorry. She goes, honestly, it was the greatest icebreaker in the world with my mother-in-law because she was like, I was a little intense. I was a little tense. I was like, and we walked in there and very clearly, she's like, I think from what I'm remembering, her mother-in-law was like, nothing is ever like clean enough.
Yeah.
So when she walked into that room, the mother-in-law thought somehow she knew about this and she did it to her mother-in-law. She was like, Mom, come on. Why would I toilet paper the room? This is, and so it was the perfect, the mother-in-law was like, well, let me help you. And let me, and like put all the, she was like, man, that kid. And the mom was like, yeah, I totally threw you under the bus. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's the right call.
Collateral damage.
Absolutely.
Nothing like getting grandma's. Actually, that reminds me. Okay. I had only lived in my house for, I think, a couple of years. Some students didn't know where I lived yet. Some leaders kind of didn't know where I lived.
Okay.
And we have a D now. Okay. And I'm actually on like the programming staff for D now this year. I'm not like in a house with a group of students. Okay. And so I am getting up to run up to the church for our last morning, Sunday morning of D now. I look down at my phone as I am backing my car out of my garage. And as I'm looking at my phone and someone is calling, I look to my right and the neighbor's house is TP'd everywhere. Okay.
No.
Everywhere. And in that split second, I'm like, this leader is calling me because they are pretty sure they TP'd the wrong house. Okay.
No.
That's awesome.
So I pick up, hey, it's Mike, and they're like, so we tried to TP a house last night. It may be yours. It may not.
Kind of just shot in
and
the dark.
I go, it definitely wasn't. I'm looking at the house right now. Turns out another collateral damage on a grandmother.
Oh no.
A woman had just closed on that house. Like a 72-year-old woman had just closed on that house. All alone by herself.
Oh no.
And was she in the house?
Huh?
Was she in the house?
She wasn't yet. Like she had been in the house, but she wasn't there when it happened, like overnight.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you guys need to get over here
and clean it up
and clean this up.
But TP is hard to clean up.
It's hard to clean up. And my sweet neighbor, Diane, I was like, you need to do this before she thinks that like she just got the neighborhood welcome party.
Yeah.
So they were predictable. I knew they were just going to move everything from her yard
over to your yard,
over to my yard. Yeah. Not great.
Not creative.
Not great at all. Not creative. Like you failed, just own it, put it all in your car, drive away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, they did it to you. Yeah. Well, TP, especially if it rains throughout the night, like that stuff is on your roof for who knows how long.
Centuries.
And then you have to go clean out your gutters and
Yeah.
All right. So here's the question then. So we've laid the foundation of pranks.
How do we feel about pranks?
So I'm like in the middle. Like I like a funny little quick prank that doesn't have like, I don't want to have to go and clean up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I prank to the level that I'm okay with being pranked in return. So for example, the other day, actually in this office, one of the camp crew students, an SD card for the camera broke. And she's like, hey, like I got all the photos off, but like, when someone pulled it out, like it kind of like ripped it a little bit. So it's not going to work anymore. And she goes, can I just throw this away? And I said, you can't just throw away an SD card. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they need to be retired. She's like, what do you mean they need to be retired? I'm like, oh, they'll blow up. Like they'll catch on fire. You'll burn this whole place to the ground unless you go and have it specially retired. Well, then the guys in the office took it like, and made it like ridiculous. I was just going to take a hammer and smash it first and be like, that's the special machine, like as a bit. But we ended up finding the production team and then like going and like, they're like, oh yeah, we have the special machine. And so then they found this thing and like plugged it in and then turned off all the lights in the whole auditorium. We're like, it takes a lot of power. We're not gonna be able to turn these on for at least an hour. And the girl's like, she's like, oh yeah, sure. And like, there's this whole like long ritual and thing that came along with it. And like, I don't mind being pranked to that level. Yeah. But like,
it's more like a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit.
It's like a bit.
But there were pranks in high school where people would take bologna, put mustard on it, and then put it on your car. And then when you went to take it off, it eats the paint. So like that stuff, I think that's a lot of money. Obviously, those are two extremes of what I think pranks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Bream, what do you think though?
I have to reconsider because I am now the global student pastor.
Yeah, you are speaking from a global influence.
When I was just the national. Here's how I view pranks. Okay. I do have respect for pranks.
Sure.
I view pranks myself personally as time and money.
Yeah.
Because it normally costs you money to pull off a pretty good prank.
Sure.
And it costs you time to think through it.
Yeah. Well,
and although I respect the game of it, I personally do not partake that much in the planning and wanting to spend money to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Personally.
Okay.
Here's how I handle pranks though. Okay. This is how I handle them. Because 13 years, you get pranked.
Yeah.
If you're a student pastor.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're not, you must be doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just a miser.
They don't like you. They don't like you.
They
that
do not
much.
like you.
Yeah.
Because if they don't like you, that means they're either going to prank you more or they're just not going to prank you at all.
What if they're not prankers, but they like to razz you? Like they'll give you a hard time.
But
Is that still pranking?
Yeah, that's still pranking.
We have a razzing student ministry. Like we get after each other.
They literally pass raspberries to each other.
But every once in a while I get pranked, but not like super often.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is what I do. Okay. Every student pastor out there. When someone gets me with a prank, I act like I have never seen it. Like I didn't see it.
You just
That's amazing.
You don't give them a rise.
I give them no rise.
Yeah.
I give them no credit.
Yeah.
The worst prank ever done to me based off of the timing of when it was done. Took 125 students and people down to the city of San Antonio, where we partner with a lot of, ministries down there.
Yeah.
And do a lot of different things. And to lead that many people from a Saturday to a Saturday is just mentally, physically, emotionally exhausting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I come back and I open up my office door to like drop something off for the next day, since the next day is Sunday, to just throw something in my office. And while I'm gone, I realized that 2 interns that were kind of helping with the student ministry, but were not on the trip, have taken plastic cups, filled them half full with water, and put them
everywhere.
literally centimeter to centimeter in my office on everything. The only thing that did not have a cup was where the door swung open.
Oh,
that was the only spot. Okay. I respected it.
Sure. Time and effort.
A lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
Not a lot of money, but a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
But I had just gotten back from a mission trip.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm exhausted. That now represents like this was the wrong time to do this.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
So I literally just shut my door, say nothing to nobody. Don't let my demeanor change. Like there's still people moving stuff, unloading trailers, right? Yep. Nobody knows. I'm the only person that knows.
Yeah.
The next day I come in, I clean all of it up before anybody is at campus.
You don't say a word.
And never said a word.
Say a word. So
That's
I
clever.
wait a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And they bring it up. Like, hey, was something, did you see something when you got back? Like in your office?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's funny.
All right.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what? Like nothing was waiting for you when you got back from mission?
You're like, we got a great cleanup crew.
I was like, no, what would have been waiting? Like something nice, like a gift for me, or like what? Yeah. What are you talking about?
Because that was a really hard
week. Did you guilt them at all?
Huh?
Did you guilt them at all?
They have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't guilt them. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, did you get me like a gift or like what should I have expected in my office?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we tried to do something to you. And like, we tried to, and I'm like, I said, yeah, I guess we have a cleaning crew that comes up on Tuesdays and like Saturdays. Yeah. And before we got back from mission trip, I'm assuming that either on Saturday or on Tuesday or on that Saturday we got back, like they must have cleaned everything up. And no joke, publicly, until I said it right here on Stacking Chairs. They don't know that I was the one that cleaned
that's
up.
hilarious.
This is literally the moment.
This is the long con.
This is the moment.
What a global thing to do.
So in a sense,
what a global thing to do.
I pranked them.
Yes.
Okay? And so because I never let people know that they got me, they don't do it that often.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They just don't do it. Right. Because those 2 interns.
What's the purpose?
If they watch this is the first time that they will know I was the one that cleaned it up. That happened in 2012.
Whoa. That is actually, that's 11 years ago.
11 years ago.
No,
wow.
Things will die with me.
You were still the
I was the assistant
at the time.
I was the assistant. Yeah.
So here's my thing.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I have a couple rules.
Okay.
You have to have rules.
Sure.
Especially in youth ministry, because to any degree or length that you go, your kids are always going to go
one step further. Yeah.
At least one step further.
The rebuttal prank,
right?
The one that is getting you back, will always go one.
Yeah, it has to.
Right.
It always will.
Well,
it doesn't matter if a student or leader.
But
They
I'm
will
saying
always go one step farther.
I gotta be honest with you. I've pulled enough pranks and had people do stuff back to me that's like all they did was take all the they took all the toilet paper and they moved it over to my stuff that I put all throughout their room or all throughout their they put it into my and I'm like that's lazy. That's not stepping up. And so but here are my rules. Number one.
Okay.
Just like you, Josh, I agree. Do not do anything that I would not be willing
to have done to you.
Have done to me. I might be frustrated, but if I'm like, nah, I've done this to people. All right, then I just need to get over it.
Yeah.
Number two, do not break personal property.
Sure.
Do not break or destroy personal property.
Okay.
Now, sometimes stuff happens. And so
are you liable? Do you pay for it then?
I try to like say, hey, what can I do to kind of help out or kind of like get involved?
Have you broken something that you had to pay for?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't.
I was curious.
But I have had conversations of, hey, I'm so sorry. Do I need to? And number three, don't do anything that I would not willingly and publicly admit that I did.
Okay. Those are some interesting rules.
If I'm going to be man enough to do it, I need to be man enough to admit that I did it. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, did you, I will play it off. Now I won't ever lie.
Yeah.
But I will almost always sarcastically be like, yeah, that was me. Yeah. And I'll tell my plan. Yeah. At 12:30 at night, I got up, I got out of my car. Yeah. That's exactly, you know what? Yeah. I had nothing else better to do.
They're the messed up person.
Yeah. So they're like,
the psycho.
Yeah. And, or they'll be like,
that's called gaslighting.
Yeah. No, I made that up.
Gaslighting is something you made up.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you talking about?
And so, but like there's some people that they will not ask me directly and they'll be like, hey, Did you hear about? And I'll say, you're the first person to talk to me about this. And they'll be like, yeah. And they'll be like, oh, and they'll be like, man, do you wonder? I was like, yeah, I wonder. Like, I'm like, and then sometimes I'll look at people and be like, are you trying to ask me something directly? Like, just ask me.
You just end up getting mad at them. And they're like, just ask me.
Yeah. But they'll be like, nah. And I'm like, okay, all right, great. Man. And then people will come back and be like, you lied to me. I go, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Number one, I told you I did it. Or number two, like you never actually asked me if I.
So what do you do if someone breaks the rules that you set? How do you confront that?
Those are my rules.
So you don't make other people abide by your same rules?
I don't. But here's the deal: at camp.
Yeah.
So at camp, we've just tried to say, hey, we've tried to just abolish it to the best of our abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can't.
But you can't actually abolish it 100%. Well, and you bring up a good point about pulling pranks on mission trip.
Yeah.
Why don't you let your students pull pranks on mission trip?
One of the reasons is because this past mission trip, they brought about 10,000 Orbeez on it and then accidentally spilled them all in the walk-in area of the dorms that we stay at, the Texas A&M dorms we stay at. Literally, they dropped the bucket and sent Orbeez everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a prankster myself, right? I do at certain things. I do think it can happen, like in the sense of we don't want it to happen, but it happens, and okay, like we're okay, like you shouldn't have done that, but like okay, you know, the biggest, the place where I am the most, no, we are not going to do this is on a mission trip,
right?
Okay. At camp is designed to be a fun environment, to be a bonding and unifying experience while we're learning and growing in the Lord, right?
Yeah.
On a mission trip, it does not mean that fun cannot be a part of it.
Right.
But we have a very, very defined purpose for what we are there to do and what we are there to, as a group, execute on for the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, like even with this stupid Orby thing, for me, I just went every time I have been on a mission trip, and more than just the usual guys messing with other guys just a little bit or, and pranks start or begin, it has always completely taken our eyes off of our purpose.
Exactly.
To the, to the prank and now the get back. And the worst thing about, it always goes too far.
Right.
I remember my student pastor saying that when I was a student, like someone, if it just keeps going, someone always ends up crying at the end, you know? And if I was a prankster, that would be like, one of my rules in favor of is like, if you get the person to cry first, they probably won't do anything back to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they'll get in trouble.
You know, like that's how, just go way too far.
Mike's like, just cut
start all the way at the top. Yeah.
So that's definitely like, as much as we have like a don't do pranks culture at camps or winter retreats or things like that.
Yeah.
On mission trip, I definitely do have a much more like, hey guys, let's stay focused on the task at hand. Like all of the fun comes within all of that, but let's not get distracted. And it just does. Unfortunately, it does. I wish it didn't, but even that dumb Orbeez thing, I had heard these rumors about there being this bucket of 10,000 Orbeez that they bought 6 months before and waited. And then they actually just spilt them all over the place. And it was like, instead of our young men on the trip, who I'm trying to bring up and bring into this culture of serving and sacrifice and, you know, instead of that being their primary focus, it was, oh, did you hear that he's going to get someone? Like, Mike, they're going to get you. And it's just, guys, this is not what we're here for. Right. You know? So that's generally context plays a lot into it.
Sure.
And you know, the assistant camp director and I a couple of days ago were talking about, I mean, what makes a good student pastor is they have this tension of chaos and order always
hanging
weighing,
in the balance.
Yes.
Always.
Weighing. And if you're always towards order, you're probably a children's pastor. Right? Yeah. You probably are a children's pastor if you're always towards order. Yeah. If you are always towards chaos, then you're a bad pastor, right?
Not even a youth pastor, just a bad pastor.
Just a bad, like, stuff is going to go down and you won't be a pastor for long if you are always in the chaos realm. But if you like to weigh that chaos and order, like the most fun things happen.
Yeah.
When we're kind of leaning on the chaos side, right?
Yeah.
So like as Justin and I were talking about that a couple of days ago, it is if you are around teenagers, you have to be able to, hey, you can't do that again.
Right. Yeah.
I really liked it and I thought it was funny, but you can't do that again. You know, like you have to be able to do that. Yeah. And that is the one part of it. It doesn't have to be pranks, but even we're talking about razzing people.
Yeah.
What that brings to a culture, as long as it's not emotionally abusive, right?
Yeah.
Is this, no one's going to take themselves too seriously.
Yes.
Yeah. And you need that, right?
Absolutely.
To cut the like mask facade off of our teenage culture of like feeling like they need to be perfect and they need to present themselves as something that they're not.
Right.
That ability to razz each other and kind of pull these little pranks and do all of it is like everybody's fair game. No one's better than and that's as long as it doesn't get abusive, like I said.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what we just
that's a great culture to have. Right?
Well, and so I try to tell my counselors, like if you're going to pull a prank, pull it on your fellow workers, not on kids that you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
you know, because you don't know who in the world you're pranking. You don't know what in the world they're doing with. Yeah. Don't mess with their personal stuff. I try to never like, if I'm in the room with you, I may move your phone, but I will never steal. I try never to like steal somebody's phone because that's like personal property that you're like,
that's $1,000.
Yeah. People are like, oh my goodness, like what in the world do I do? And so that's some of that different stuff. But like growing up, we used to go to a mall and find out that my parents like were at the mall. And so we'd like move the car to like another parking spot and do stuff like that. But I also had a student pastor, and some of you student pastors out there, I love you, but you are way too serious. You need to be okay with pranks. Yeah. Don't take yourself so seriously. Yeah. We had a youth pastor that used to always want to do stuff to us and razz us, but he never let you do anything back to him. Ooh, so like one time we all tried to pick him up at a pool party. We're at a pool party and we all tried to pick him up and throw him in the pool, and he started like fighting. And I remember
punching kids.
I remember that day. I remember being like, "What in the world?" And so then we would start doing little things, and I feel like I finally started to come around. I'm thankful for him. He was an awesome guy, but I knew with this, like with pulling pranks, it was like no land. And I'm like, come on, man. And so like I try to go, hey, listen. Sometimes people love you So they're trying to they're not trying to give you a hard time. They're trying to be like, oh, Josh, we smashed your phone. And, no, they hate you if they smash your phone. We cut your brake lines.
Well, we just had this happen we did a retreat, and we had some of the guys, they were, long story short, they convinced the kid to like try and like flirt with this girl, but they knew better than to like, encourage this kid to do that. And so one of the people who should have been the one who like caught it, I pulled him aside. I'm like, man, like, better. You know that this is a bad idea. This kid has no idea that he's like being pushed into doing something. It is your responsibility to make sure that bar is set in that moment.
Right.
And I came down on him pretty hard that day, and then came back and was like, hey man, I'm sorry I came down here, but I expect like this level. And I think sometimes like with the pranks and the razzing, we have to set sometimes we have to set hard lines early.
Right.
And just say, hey, like, this is the line.
Right.
Because then they're going to be confused when all of a sudden they cross that line and you're like, hey, you guys can't do this. It's like, what? Right. This is where the line's at.
Right.
And that's something I kind of do with my guys in our youth group, is like kind of set the bar. I'm like, hey, this is the line, and I expect you to help hold that line. And I give them some responsibility.
And it also is, there's some people are like, well, don't pull pranks on camp time. And again, that's fine. Hey, listen, if that's your call, that's your call. The problem is that's like an immense amount of bonding time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're there, you're fellowshipping with one another, you're outside of your comfort zone. Sometimes you're like, but then the other guys are like, no, don't pull pranks like during normal business hours or like whatever. And I'm just like you gotta just breathe. If you don't ever let people have fun and just cut loose and just enjoy, I do think there's a time. I do think there's a place.
Yeah.
We've tried to set some different things. I've also tried to say at camp, don't do something that's going to, like you're saying, going to be distracting from the process.
Yeah.
So like one time, some of my leadership staff put my golf cart on our program stage.
Oh, yeah.
So what they had to do was they had to go get power tools, unscrew the guard lines.
Yeah. And put it back
wheel
together.
the thing in, put it up there, which they are heavy.
They are heavy.
Very heavy. Then screw the things back in. And I was like, all right, that's funny. That's fine. Now I had to be like, oh my gosh, are you guys kidding me? But that was funny. Yeah. And it's distracting from what? From program being able to do the games and stuff that they did.
Just drive it off the stage.
But it was the last day, but then I had another year, I had people put my golf cart on the stage here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the only problem with that is like the next day I could not find my golf cart for like hours, and I had to run around trying to find some different things. Yeah. And then when you got into the meeting, that was the full focus of everything that was there, because it's like you couldn't listen to the guy because there was a golf cart up on stage.
Here's a thought then. Really, the line of pranks is just a moving target at all times.
For sure.
That's the thing, is like that going too far. How would those guys know that? You just have to use discretion in that
Absolutely.
moment. And that's really all it comes down to.
And being a pastor in general, but being a student pastor, especially, where we're coming alongside of people that were literally kids a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And in a few years, they're going to be adults.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you are constantly teaching them where that little bit of that moving line is, right? Of like hey guys, that was really funny. This was just the wrong moment for that.
Yeah.
Or I know that prank, if you would have done it to one of your friends,
it would have been fine.
They would have felt like they were more connected to you.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did it to someone who already feels picked on.
Right.
Yeah.
And therefore now they actually feel alienated and picked on rather than brought into the group. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's just always, and then you always have the kid too. Okay. You always have the kid that, much like that student pastor, is perfectly fine doing stuff until it's done back.
That's
and now
right.
it's bullying.
That's right.
And he's like yelling about it. And it's like, everybody hates me.
Right.
And so we're still working with the line with that kid.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, if you're going to give it, you're going to take it back as well.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, I mean, that's literally almost a 24/7 job, is like, where is the line here?
Yeah.
Especially with our young men. I mean, as males ourselves,
right.
I have men in my life growing up that kind of were like, okay, that little bit of verbal sparring we just did.
Yep.
You took it too far.
Yeah.
right? You literally took it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
And that was that moment that it went into my mind of like, oh, okay.
Yep.
For me to talk to a man 20 years older than me that I need to respect, but has brought me into a level of trash talk.
Yep.
Right.
Then this is where the line is going to have to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And as long as, I think the bigger thing is, as long as it is done in that way of, I'm for you, man.
Yeah.
Like I am really for you in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to come alongside of you to help teach you what it means to be a man and where that line is in any of these types of situations. Yeah. I mean, that's, if you're a student pastor, you are comfortable with figuring out where that line is and then helping coach people accordingly through it. You know,
That's good.
Well, I think we could go on and on and on, but Josh,
it's a moving
I think
target.
It's because it's a moving target.
I think
is now time to go
Actually, I think we should just skip it.
No.
Just kidding.
Are you
Small
pranking us?
group.
Oh, he got us.
Is that too far? Is that
Too far,
Too
man.
far.
Josh.
Too far.
Too far.
Josh, how would you feel if I did that to you?
Actually, you know what?
Just kidding. I just did.
So small group, if you don't know Kyle, but small group.
Small group is a time for us to kind of, be a little real, maybe talk about something that's going on in our lives, be a little lighter, talk about what's happening. I thought we could go around and maybe talk about a prank that we were a part of.
I'm going to talk about a prank that happened to me.
Go ahead.
That went too far.
Okay, go.
I came back from a gig in New Jersey, and as I was driving back, I had somebody stop, and I had a package come while I was gone, but it was a big package. So I said, hey, here's my keys, put it in my apartment for me, please. And they helped me out. And then all of a sudden, as I'm driving back from New Jersey, this is when the movie It came out, by the way. I start getting text messages from a random email account saying like it was pictures of my apartment, but from the outside, from across the road. So I text the buddy who was in my house. I'm like, hey, I'm getting pictures of my apartment. Have you seen anything, like anybody? And I'm exhausted. I'm on a 6-hour drive back from New Jersey.
Yeah.
And this is back when I lived in New York, obviously. And he's like, I saw someone kind of hanging around outside a little, but nothing super. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, bro, I think someone's stalking me. And didn't even put two and two together. Then as I'm driving, this is where the two and two didn't come together. I'm seeing red balloons 40 minutes south of my house. I'm seeing balloons starting to pop up on overpasses and stuff. And so
40 minutes?
Yeah, maybe 30, maybe I'm being a little generous, but yeah, far south of my house, I'm seeing balloons along the highway and stuff. And didn't put two and two together. And I tell the guy, I'm starting to lose service. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna call the cops. I called him and he's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. I haven't seen anything. I'm so dead serious. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call the cops. Someone's stalking me. And so then I lose service. And then finally he gets gets me back as I'm trying to get service. And he goes, hey, Josh, don't call the cops. And I'm like, was this you? It's a guy who does not prank. He's super serious person. He goes, yeah. It was me. And I remember it was a very emotionally taxing weekend. I won't go into all the details of what was happening in my personal life at the time. I'll tell you guys after the episode. But I get there and I ream him out because I was super, and finally I come to it and I'm like, you know what? It was a good prank. I'm so sorry. You want to come in and have dinner? But apparently they'd done a whole thing with it. They had the balloons, and then
dude, that's dedication. 30 minutes out.
Yeah.
I mean,
He just
the cops,
caught you at a bad time.
He caught me at a bad time. But there were also cops going around cleaning up the balloons in the community and stuff. And it was on the Facebook groups and stuff in the community and because they had been putting balloons up on places.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's awesome.
Then people were freaking out because it was It. They're oh, teenagers are gonna do terrible things because they're trying to it's demonic and
So the last time that I really did commit myself to a couple of pranks was when I was a counselor in college.
Okay.
And camp is perfect because you are surrounded by other guys.
Opportunity.
And we did not have a do not do pranks to your counselors.
Yeah.
This was the early 2000s, man. It was the Wild West of counseling back then. And so I will say, I shouldn't say it, but I will. If you have the 4th, 5th, 6th graders, they are the best ones to prank. I've learned that.
Yeah.
Because they're old enough to have figured out and realized things quickly.
Yeah.
But they still trust you as an authority figure.
Right.
Okay. Once they're middle school, high school.
Yeah.
they'll catch you, they'll see through it.
Yes.
They don't care, whatever, right?
Yeah.
4th, 5th, 6th. We have this, it actually was like our purity talk night, which I'm not even sure. I mean, back then, like to give that to the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. So one of our like lead directors, like the guys and the girls are in 2 different spots on the camp.
Yeah.
And we're in this kind of like sheltered area that is open on all sides, but it has like a fireplace. So we're doing like our commitment, like fireplace, like throw something in the fire.
Sure, classic word of life.
Right?
You know.
Yeah. So, you know, we have openings. This whole thing is open other than that fireplace on one side of the shelter, right? Yep. And one of my buddies, Ryan Krause, I think he had been in like drama school in college. And he could do an unbelievable velociraptor noise. And so as we were closing down the purity talk that this like director was giving to our students, we had told him to sneak into the woods, like right next to the shelter, and just start letting these velociraptor noises just go, dude. And so everything closes, we pray, we're like, all right, guys, let's have a little bit of a good time. The director is like telling everybody what the schedule is gonna be, like when we need to start, you know, start leaving. And whenever he gets to like right at the end, my buddy Ryan makes the whatever noise, okay? Yeah, like, but the loud, like screaming noise, okay? And I run up to the front to the director and I go, it's back. That's literally it.
That's it.
The 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, their eyes just go, like they just light up. And he's making these noises.
Yeah.
And all of the counselors kick into gear and we're like, all right, we need to get together. We need to get across the field. Like we need to get you guys to safety. Like it is here, you know?
And like the
all
village.
of these little 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who completely at this stage of their life still trust us as good, dependable authority figures.
Yes.
Start banding together, okay? We start going across this field that is like on the other side of where the it noise came from.
Yeah.
And we're like, maintenance men, go get it, okay? So the maintenance men run out into the field where they hear all the noise.
This is like a big old deal. Everybody's in on this.
And everybody did perfect. They start running out with flashlights, like to get it, right?
Yeah.
And you just see these flashlights like flying in the air. You see flashlights like cutting off, okay? And so like one by one, like 6 or 7 maintenance men, just like it goes pitch black again, okay? And my buddy Ryan has now at this point moved over to where we are exiting to and makes the noise from over there, okay? So literally we're like, get back in the shelter. Like we're getting all of the kids, like we've moved them like 25 yards towards the exit on the other side of the field, and now we have to move them back in the shelter. Kids are crying. Kids are quoting memory verses. Okay? They're
Too
literally
far.
like,
Too far.
You know, you're with me in the darkest valley, Lord, right? They're literally they are huddling up and praying for each other. And it was like once we had gotten to that point, and now, oh gosh, like they have bought in on this way too much.
Yeah.
We're like, it's a joke. It's a joke. Like it's not real.
Yeah.
So we did some damage that week.
Yeah.
There's some people that have not watched Jurassic Park since that moment. We did some damage.
Yeah.
And I will say we deserved it, but we did get a healthy talk from the camp director.
Wow.
Because once kids started going back and telling parents, and parents started calling.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Kyle knows about emails.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, we got a healthy talk.
Yeah.
But I say all of that to say it was still worth it. It was 100%.
I stand by it.
Seeing those kids that affected by it in a sick way was very worth the like tears and the prayers and everything they were doing.
Scripture.
Like it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. You know?
So I will tell you too, very, very quickly. I had 2 discipleship boys that I would meet with, and our agreement was we will never pull a prank on each other, and we will always defend one another. So if somebody was going to pull a prank on me and they found out about it, they would tell me. And if somebody was going to pull a prank on them and I found out about it, I told them. And so all the way down, I met with these boys for 3 years. And one of them, they were both having their senior prom, different schools. But the one had already had his senior prom. And so the other one was like, dude, after my senior prom, we want to prank Kyle. We want to toilet paper his house. We want to get him because he always talks about how nobody gets him and blah, blah.
Yeah.
So this kid tells me. So bottom line, I get together with my pastor's boys and their friends, and we set an ambush and we work this thing out. I don't know how this other kid didn't realize, but we're like texting. We changed each other's names in the phones. Yeah. So for a week or two straight, like as we're prepping, I would get a text message from somebody else that would have like coded words. I'd be like, oh, okay, this is the time they're going to show up. Yeah. He changed my number or name. So then like when I'm texting him, I'm like, you guys almost here? And he'd be like, yeah, mama. And so then I had taught these boys, this is how you show up to somebody's house. This is where you park. This is what you do. And this boy who was on my side got this other kid to do all the wrong stuff. Like park insanely far away. You always want your car close enough, but far enough that people can't see it. Yeah. You always keep your keys with you. Yeah. You never lock your car. He got them to lock the car and then to put the keys on the tire. So then he ran back and stole the keys. And so when they showed up, they started doing these different things. And we had a thing. We turned on the sprinklers on them. Yeah. We had water balloons with like flour all in it. We had hoses already and they ran back to the car obviously to run away. And the keys weren't there and they were locked out of their car and they couldn't get it. So they were livid. So that was fun. But probably my favorite prank I've ever pulled on somebody is early 2000s. I created a fake email address that was very similar to a guy that I worked in the same office area.
Oh, is this called phishing?
Probably.
What phishing?
Yeah, catfishing. Yeah. And so I wrote him and I said, hey, your email address and my email address is kind of similar. And I read all the email addresses on forwards, and I saw your email address, and I knew we were going to be best friends. And so for like a week straight, every day, I would email this guy something. Okay. Would not say anything. He would never say anything. And then I told the other buddy with me, we worked like in a closet. Yeah. I told him about it and he was like, dude, this is hilarious. So like, he'd be like, let me email him today. So after like a week and a half, we're sitting in there, we're like, this is dumb, like whatever. We're like, would you just please email me back? Let me know it. And we hear, Kelly, I got another one. And we're like, he is getting him and he's reading. And so he pulls us, and we're like, what are you talking about? He pulls us in, he reads, he's like, this guy has been emailing me for a week to a week and a half and I can't get him to stop emailing me. We carried this thing on for a year and a half. Oh my God. Wow. A year and a half. Because we're like, just send one email a day. The problem was every once in a while, he would forget that it was my day to email. And so sometimes we'd send contrasting emails and he'd be like, this moron, he doesn't even know what in the world he's talking about.
Did he not know what a spam filter was?
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Every email you got, you read. Right?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And so then,
what are you even doing?
So then like a year and a half afterwards, we were like, hey, let's exchange pictures. And he was like, I ain't sending this guy my picture. I ain't sending this guy my picture. And so we were like, hey, I'm ready. I'm going to send you. So we took a picture of the two of us going, gotcha. And
that's funny.
It was awesome.
That is a good one.
It was awesome.
That's great. Yeah. So he I'm sure
he thought it was hilarious. To this day, every once in a while, he'll talk to me about stuff and he'll be like, yeah, Butch D the man, huh?
Yeah.
Butch D the man.
Funny.
That's like what is it? Jim stealing the letterhead and faxing Dwight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is you in the future. Do not drink the coffee. So to me, those are my favorite pranks. Yeah. The ones that mentally just mess with you just a little bit.
Yeah, just for fun.
Yeah.
Well, good. That's been an interesting episode of Stacking Chairs, talking about pranks.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to figure it out. With every youth group, with every camp, you're going to have to kind of find your own balance as a group there. And
you got to remember you're working with youth.
Exactly. Yep.
So
find that balance. Well, good.
Fun.
Stacking Chairs Pod everywhere. stackingchairspod@wol.org. Send us an email. Mike, thanks for being here again. We weren't sick this time.
No, we weren't.
Yeah.
Didn't get
you guys are
sick.
Normally sick.
Yeah, we're usually sick by this point.
2 feet away from me.
Well, hey, Kyle, what do we do?
Push over the stack of chairs. All right. Stack those chairs.
Well, we push them over if it's a prank.
Yeah.